Good afternoon. Just drop us a like, a comment, let us know if you can see and hear us okay. I'm joined by Johnny, who's currently in Texas.
How's it going, Matt?
I'm good. I'm in this not so sunny UK today. It's cold today, especially up north. But how's it in Texas?
It's pretty dry, pretty hot. It's good. It's good. It's a bit too hot, but it's going to be like 98 Fahrenheit in the coming days. So like tomorrow, I think it's going to be 98, which is I'm not sure what that's in Celsius anymore. It's been too far along.
too long over there.
Too
It's
long
very
over here.
humid though, isn't it, Texas?
Yeah, it's like a dry heat. You don't get the breeze, so it's just like just dry heat. So yeah, in Celsius about 37. But yeah, I mean it's sunny. It rains a little bit here as well. Actually, it's no, it's for the most part it's quite nice. It's quite nice.
That's good. I know Phil's joined us, Sean's joined us as well. Yeah, just wait for a few more people to jump on before we get started. I know the StreamYard's running a bit slow at the moment. It seems to be like you go live and then it takes like ages for Facebook to push a notification out. So hopefully we'll have no more issues with this one today.
Really?
Yeah, we the Hive Live unfortunately cancelled last week because we did it, but it failed midway through. So hopefully we have no such issues today. Jay's joined us as well. So yeah, today we're going to be talking about the EU, which is ironic because you're in America, which is also another massive market.
Yep. Everyone was telling me just move to the American market. Gotta move to the American market because it's just again, it is like the UK on steroids. It's just the sales volume, the margins, everything's a lot better. You can tell like just the American people they're just wired differently to Europeans. Like it's just different. People are like a bit more like, I don't know what it is. I don't want to start bashing Americans, but like completely, it's just the different humans to the rest of the world. You know, the way I see Americans, they all think they're like their own like talk show.
Yeah,
They're all very like, look at me, and I think they want like all the latest cool stuff and convenience, and they're like in an entertainment world, aren't they? They're all like grown up with that sort of different mindset, and they're just bigger spenders, and they're all in huge amounts of debt. And
yeah,
it's great for retail. Having a retail, obviously online retail business in America is great. Just and leveraging American spending habits. But yeah, it's an interesting one here because you go to the grocery shop and it's reasonably cheap, like not cheap, but it's the same price as UK, better quality, a lot more choice. If you go out for dinner or pizza, it's just going to cost you a lot more. So it's interesting. You can save money here, but you can also have the expensive life as well.
Yeah,
But
which is kind of contrary to, I would say, most of like mainland Europe, because traditionally eating out in Europe is quite inexpensive, certainly compared to the UK. From what I've seen, you can go to a restaurant in Spain and have a paella, or you can go to an Italian restaurant and you barely spend, sort of £20 on a 3-course meal. So it's a considerable difference, I think. Well, you're a bit blurry. Is it the humidity?
yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's going on there. Hopefully the focus will come back. But yes, it's in like Portugal, it's 10 to 15 euros for like a 3-course meal and wine. Each per person. Here it's you go to go for a brisket place, you can spend like $130 for two at like a brisket restaurant. So it's just different. It's
Very different. Very different.
Yeah.
But I think that's the thing, tapping into different cultures. So back to what we're talking about today. So obviously we're going to be talking about selling in the EU. So I sell in the EU, and you do as well, Johnny. You do it quite successfully as well. Well, we've kind of got different approaches, haven't we? Because you've set up a company in Germany, is that correct? Whereas I just kind of use third parties for my kind of compliance stuff.
Yeah, so we have a different entity as well. So we have a GmbH in Germany as well. Don't necessarily think that's the best way to do it. It's just the way we set it up, because I set up with a business partner. So I didn't want to go out 100% by myself. So for me, it made sense to start an entity in Germany, but can't say I recommend doing it that way. It's expensive, and you got to deal with all the German accountancies and software, and got to deal with, like, you got to understand German really to start your own entity in Germany, and basically travel there often, because you have to go there every year for like a shareholder meeting and all that sort of thing. But yeah, you did much different to me. I think it's probably more optimal the way you do it. And
yeah, I do it quite a bit differently. Oh, Phil's just jumped in before we start talking about Europe. He wants to ask, did you mention something about seller board integration with BStock? I didn't know seller board had an MCF, multi-channel fulfillment feature. So
I don't know why I would integrate with them. This doesn't make sense, really. There's their analytics tool. It's a very good analytics tool, but they don't have an API. But what data would we pull from Sellerboard that we'd want for BStock and replans? Doesn't make too much sense. No, so we're not going to build that integration with Sellerboard. It's the lower level analytics software. Not lower level, that sounds bad. But I mean, there's like analytics software, which is like the analytics, and then there's obviously replans and what BStock does. Yeah. So yeah, we wanna. I'm not sure what's going on with this webcam, by the way.
I know Yvonne says she's having issues with the connection. There shouldn't be any issues from our side, but if there's like a little settings cog, and you can switch it between 1080p and like a lower resolution if it's a bit choppy. So maybe try doing that there.
Yeah. So yeah, for us, our main goal is to potentially integrate with warehouse management systems where we can pull in your local quantity of your warehouse and use that for our sort of forecasting systems. So that's the eventual goal, is to mostly integrate with so we can track your sort of local inventory, because we're not like an order management system where we're like deducting your local inventory when orders come through from eBay and all that sort of thing, because then we'd have to charge you over £1,000 when the software is less than 100 for now. So like we'll probably integrate with stuff like SaaS and stuff like that, and companies like that eventually, but not like Sellerboard, probably not. Doesn't make sense to integrate with an analytics tool, because we have analytics as well. It's kind of like quite similar software, I'd say, except we have replans and stuff like that. And yeah.
Well, 50% connection's disappearing, so apologies about that. I'm not sure why. There's nothing on our side that's indicating that. Like I say, I know StreamYard's been having a few issues recently, so hopefully it will resolve itself. So yeah, back to the European chat, which obviously today is the main topic of conversation. So I've set my business up very differently to you. I've set my business up. I operate out of the UK, and I have what's called physical representation. So I have a company that I work with, who basically they have their offices in the EU, and I kind of funnel my communications through them. So what that means is I can meet all the compliance requirements of having somebody based within the EU without having to set my own business up and do it that way, which makes life a lot easier. So I think we should dial back to why you should sell in the EU, because obviously we've just talked a little bit about our setups. But I think the EU, a lot of people used to do EFN, and I think most people would agree that EFN pre-Brexit was fantastic, because it meant you could get a lot of extra sales without any real additional work. Because what Amazon would do is they would push your listings onto European marketplaces and then send your orders to your European customers. So it's a completely hands-off approach. Unfortunately, though, we did leave the European Union, which meant that EFN can no longer exist, because we are not part of Europe. So Amazon therefore cannot move our inventory. The problem, of course, is Brexit has created a lot of challenges, and getting back into Europe is now a little bit more complex than it was a few months ago. So a few before Brexit. But with them complexities comes opportunity. And I think it's very much like the bundle situation, where you have to put a little bit more effort in, create your own listings and all that. But that's why people are having so much success with the bundles that we've been teaching through the Hive. And that's why I think people are going to have a lot more success with Europe, because there is so much less competition. Is that what you found in Europe as well?
Yeah, there definitely is. There's less competition to the sales volume. Yeah, definitely, for sure. Doesn't seem as many. Germany's not doesn't encourage entrepreneurship. They want everyone to be sort of robotic and work, factory jobs. That's sort of the German mentality. They don't actually encourage any sort of creativity or entrepreneurship, so people don't go into that sort of field. So yeah, there is definitely a lot less competition. The thing about England is it's a great place for entrepreneurship. So there's a lot of people want to be entrepreneurs and be financially free and have that freedom, where the rest of Europe, especially German, they're more comfort and they know the government will look after them, and they're more robotic, I'd say, in their mentality. So that means there's less people selling on Amazon and obviously more volume. So yeah, we had a good Q4. I think I mentioned this before, but the HFSS came into play in the UK, where it just kind of hit chocolates really hard because you couldn't advertise. But last year, Q4, I hit the same sort of good sort of chocolate Q4 as I used to do back in the UK. So yeah, definitely less competition for sure. Did you find that for your sort of market?
I find it so much more profitable. And yeah, like you say, there's so few sellers on listings. Traditionally, particularly, I think if you're in the arbitrage space and the wholesale space in the United Kingdom, then of course you're probably buying from the same places as many other sellers in the country. You're therefore putting products on the same listings, and therefore it's very competitive. One of the main advantages, of course, of doing the export model is that you can still buy in the UK, but then you can sell it on a much less competitive marketplace, because people in the European Union are not necessarily buying from the UK because they've got their own distributors in the EU, so they wouldn't necessarily buy from the UK. What I found particularly with kind of like the arbitrage deals as well is, like, you'll notice, Courage does a price drop, and then Argos does a price drop, and then John Lewis does a price drop, and then every AO does a price drop, and all the retailers do a price drop, which means Amazon usually drops their price as well, and it kind of drives the whole market down. But that doesn't happen in Europe, because obviously it's kind of like the UK European divide. So there's a great opportunity that I found of kind of like buying stuff on arbitrage sales and deals, and then just shipping it into Europe, because you're not dealing with that same level of competition and price tanking and price matching from all the different retailers driving the price down. So even simple arbitrage in its purest form of basically taking one product and moving it to another marketplace, which is essentially what OA is, Amazon arbitrage, is taking stuff from retail shops and putting it, or other stores, online stores, and putting it on Amazon. You can do exactly the same with Europe. You can take arbitrage product from UK retailers and wholesalers, and then move it into Europe, where it's not only a less competitive marketplace, but it hasn't seen potentially the price drops and price aggression that you would find in the UK marketplace. So for me, that is one of the main advantages of Europe, is being able to operate arbitrage in really its purest form.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good opportunity to do that. But it's very complicated with the paperwork, and for what I do, which is sending pallets across, it does get pretty pricey, and it's a lot of paperwork. But I think for what you do in your sort of category, it's better because you sell more expensive goods, so the shipping cost per item is a lot less. Because we do, groceries, that's our main thing in the UK, and we export to Germany. It's costing us like almost £200 per pallet. So you really have to optimize those pallets and get those shipping costs right. So, but yeah, you're right. Once you get that to Germany, you can get the compliance right and all that stuff. It's got very good margins. So it's one of those things where if you get through that, the roadblocks in the way, it can be very profitable. And I know that's sort of like a lot of your business now, isn't it? It's I don't know how what share of your business you're doing in the
I think
EU?
Europe is about 30% of our business now. It's just grown and grown and grown. And I think people forget that Germany, the Amazon Germany marketplace is larger than the UK, just
Yeah.
Germany. By getting yourself into Europe, you've not only got access to Germany, but you've now got access to 300 million consumers. I can't quite remember exactly how many Amazon sites there are in Europe, but there's probably like 10 or 12, which obviously then service, because not every country in Europe has its own Amazon site, but they will obviously order from other sites. For example, Portugal orders from Spain, and not every Switzerland probably orders from either Germany or France, something like that. So not every country has its own Amazon marketplace, but you've got access to consumers in the entirety of Europe. I think what's also really important to understand as well is that consumer tastes are different in Europe. I think it's easier to make more profit because, generally speaking, particularly for the German marketplace, German consumers tend to value quality a lot higher, which means you can therefore sell better quality products at a higher price point and therefore make more profit margin. I think the UK is very much like the American market in terms of they want things as cheap as possible. And there's kind of like an achievement almost in, I managed to get this for nothing. I paid 50p for these pair of shorts in Primark, kind of achievement. Whereas I think in Europe, it's very much more about the quality aspect, which really helps from a profitability point of view, because you can sell much more profitable, higher margin products, and also potentially reduce your returns because the products that you sell in are of a better quality. So I think that's something that is often overlooked, is that the consumer tastes in Europe are very different to that of the UK and the American market.
Yeah, I so I'm on the fence there. I think Americans care more about price tag, and they're more like, oh, I spent X amount and it's going to be better, and they're less. You'll notice that when Americans are buying services, then they're less worried about the money, I find, than Europeans. I think Germans are quite tight though. I feel like I'm just bashing Germany, but whenever like groceries and stuff like that, they're a little bit on the tight side, and it's a different mentality as well. But again, for the sort of consumer, like it's, your sort of higher price value goods, do they value convenience more than going down the shop and finding a deal? I'm not too sure, but it seems like it's definitely working for you. Yeah.
That's to say, from our personal experience, we've found that the consumers generally value the quality more in particularly Germany and across Europe than they do in the UK. I think we found that certainly on a lot of products. I'm just going to jump to Ben's comment. So Ben said, Europe is definitely an area that we are looking to expand into. The US would be a great market for us, but shipping to the US drives us pretty much out of the market. European shipping is still reasonable enough to get access there. That's a really, really good point. Shipping from the UK to the US, although completely viable in terms of it's easy to do, is very expensive. It's I think you referenced £200 a pallet there to send something to, say, Germany from the UK. You're probably looking at maybe £400 to £600 for a pallet to send that from the UK to the US. And a lot of people who sell on the US marketplace, they basically source from within the US or have their goods shipped. Say if they're having private label products, they have them shipped from China directly to the US. There's no kind of intermediary there because the shipping takes a lot of the profit out of it, particularly from a UK to US point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. I've only really shipped containers from the US, and it's always quite pricey. But I guess that's sometimes the move, right? Is if you really are selling a lot of volume, is sending containers over. This you do get in trouble. We sometimes work with brands that want us to send goods into Europe, and they sometimes try and encourage us to send like container loads over. I'm just thinking, well, who's going to pay for this container? Like, who's going to take the risk on all this stock? And you get some bad characters out there who just want you to take a lot of the risk. But that's a different topic in working with brands and how they can sometimes try and get get you as a third party to take a lot of the risk and sell stuff that's not forecast, because they're like, oh, this will sell at X amount. I'm like, you don't know Amazon. It's not going to can't just sell a container worth of chocolates, in January over. It's just not going to work. It's not going to work. Yeah, that's enough consideration. Again, optimizing sort of delivery costs is sort of half the game, isn't it? Right, getting it through customs and automating that system, and we've tried to build like a sort of mini system to try and get stuff to Germany, getting like automating the commercial invoices. You've got to store the different commodity codes and all that sort of thing, and quite a lot of admin, and it is expensive. Is a pallet 600 quid to the US? Have you looked into that before?
Yeah, I've paid £600 to have a pallet shipped from the US to the UK before. Yeah,
Okay.
that's how expensive it was for me to have a pallet shipped.
Yeah. So that's the thing, when it comes to sort of groceries and items with lower value goods, it probably won't work. But for electronics, there's always some sort of benefit there. And US sort of goods as well, quite expensive as well. Like I was always concerned, like before, like I deal with a lot of American suppliers, and the prices were constantly going up and up, and I was like, this is crazy. How am I paying $5 for like Coffee Mate? But actually going to the supermarkets over here, it's sort of a similar price. So things over here are just quite expensive for like random goods.
But you've had quite good success shipping, again, sort of on arbitrage form, but obviously you do wholesale in terms of shipping, UK products to European consumers, haven't you? It's particular brands of chocolate that obviously are only sold in the UK, and then you've done quite well on in the EU before.
Yeah, but it's definitely seasonal. Some of the stuff like the chocolates just died overnight. We got to like January, February, and like this brand was selling a lot, and then it just sort of went overnight. So for me, it's sort of like a lot of our focus is going to be on Q4. But yeah, stuff like digestive biscuits and sort of UK products do work well in Germany. Stuff like Vegemite and stuff like that does work well. But you basically, what you really want as well is the focus on the stuff that is manufactured in the UK, which is not Vegemite, by the way. But to actually optimize all this stuff, you've got to ensure everything is manufactured in the country of origin is in the UK, because then you don't pay the duty, right? I believe it's the duty.
There's no duty on UK manufactured goods to Europe. Yeah, that's right.
So that's sort of the hack, isn't it? In a way, isn't it?
Yeah.
To avoid things is to have UK products, and it's really identifying that is the other thing as well. It's just making sure, because a lot of things are manufactured in obviously China and India and other places, and you don't know it, even though you might think it's a UK brand. It's not. It's been manufactured elsewhere. So that was the hack. But yeah, we've had a lot of definitely over Q4. We had a lot of success, and Terry's chocolates and stuff like that work really well in Germany and stuff like that, and selling for a lot higher margins than they would in the UK, where a lot of this Q4 Christmas items kind of crashed a lot last Q4, and I know a lot of people were like sitting on stock. So yeah, it's good. It's good. We still need to crack it more and get our systems down, but
yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, speaking of systems, I know Dan's put his comment on as well. Trying to ship from the UK to DE with UPS of VASC. So I'm just going to reference this because Amazon, to their credit, have actually done a lot over the past 2 years to help people get back into the EU. So obviously, initially EFN kind of just died a death and it just disappeared. However, EFN does exist at the moment, and you can have stuff shipped from the UK to European consumers. There is a lot of restrictions around what can be sold. It can't be over £135, and all the sales have got tax on, or got all VATted at the local country rate. So for anyone who's not VAT registered, unfortunately, you can't take advantage of that. Well, you can take advantage of that, but it probably isn't going to be very profitable for you. So there is a few things like that, but also there's a thing called Amazon ATS. So through a company called Avast. Now this actually you were saying that the pallets obviously is £200. And with this service, what Amazon do is they collect all your parcels together in the UK, and then they send them to warehouses in either France or Germany for free. They actually don't charge you for this. So all you have to do is get your stuff to a UK warehouse. That's at your expense. There is no partner carrier for that at the moment. So you know how you buy them through UPS on Amazon, you print your labels, it's like £3 a box. You'll have to pay the full UPS rate, which is, for me, I'm paying about £6-7 a box, maybe £10 with insurance. So it's not too bad at all. But that is effectively to get that product all the way to Germany or France, because Amazon will move it for free for you. So you know, they have done an awful lot just to help people out, getting people back into Europe, because I think they realise that the UK, like you said, there's not that many entrepreneurs in some parts of the EU, and therefore that's why there's not much competition. But that also means that Amazon customers are not very well served in the same way they are in the UK. And by having UK sellers, you know, ship back into Europe, increases Amazon sales and increases UK sellers' business as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely the more you look around, the more you find out.
Yeah,
sure.
there is definitely a bit of trial and error when it comes to shipping into the EU. You know, it's not quite as simple as, you know, you've got to get things right, and you've got to learn the processes. So it's it can be a little bit difficult. But the thing is, it's ironic because the barriers are an issue. Like you said, the barriers create paperwork. They are added cost, but the barriers are what make it profitable. You know, it's a very kind of catch-22 situation. The reason I'm having so much success in Europe is because most people are not bothering to get back into Europe anymore.
Yeah.
You know, it's a market of 300 million customers, and most people have just gone, I can't be bothered. It's too much effort. I'm just going to focus on the UK, or focus on, it seems to be a lot of people have just kind of moved to the US marketplace, which is totally fine. And it's kind of like this little gold mine in the corner that kind of everybody's just seems to have sort of ignored in the past 2 years. So I'm very much a fan of Europe.
Yeah. I think like some of the issues we had was a lot of the couriers made it difficult for us to sell, because our German business is a different entity. We're sort of selling to them as a different customer. So what we'd do is be paying customs on both sides of the border as well. So just stuff like that does become a bit of a ball ache, where you're paying a lot of money, like 200 quid per side, because of the complications of having two different entities and having to, and some wouldn't want that. Some would want if you're shipping to Amazon, they'd want you to have, you know, VAT numbers on both sides of the countries. And there's definitely a lot of complications and a lot of different paperwork and making sure you do it right. And again, I definitely wouldn't recommend them doing the way I did it, but I think the way you're doing it is, you know, it's the way I would do it if I did it again. So, you know, to learn from you, I probably have to bounce some ideas if I have to rerun the ideas in my head, but I have to run it through you. But having two different entities, that's complicated for sure. There's definitely a lot easier ways. There's a question here. Is it no duty and customs on all UK made products to Europe, or just groceries?
It's all UK manufactured product. There is a percentage, and sorry, I can't remember the percentage offhand. So the goods don't have to be entirely made in the UK, as long as like a certain amount of them is made in the UK as a percentage, then it will qualify as exempt from duty and customs. So yeah, there's no duty or customs on that.
Yeah, so I think if like a part of the ingredient is imported, but the majority of the manufacturing goes on UK, you'd count that as a sort of UK manufactured product. But yeah, that's there's a few YouTube seminars on country of origin, and that is extremely boring. But that's what Matt's going to do in the Hive, is actually kind of spice this up and make it a little bit more interesting, because you can go through all the HMRC stuff, which is long and drawn out.
I can tell you that much.
On YouTube, or what we're going to try and do is kind of summarize this, because I've been through all this myself, and it's just It's a bit boring. It's a lot of
I think
paper.
the beauty of as well as what I'm going to jump to this question here. So, will you be going into more detail about this? I don't want to turn this into a sales pitch, but yes, we will be going into a lot more detail about the Hive. Learn how to get back into the EU since Brexit. So yeah, the beauty of what I've done is obviously I've been in Europe since 2018, so I've been pre-Brexit and post-Brexit, and we've continued to sell. So we've been through all of the registrations, the processes, the good, the bad. So what I will be doing essentially is kind of packaging all that information up in an Amazon-friendly way. So I'm going to give you all the information you need and none of the information you don't, because like you say, if you go onto the EU tariff customs website, it's got so many rules that are completely not relevant to the majority of people, because obviously trade is massive. It's about all the trade from Europe. It's not just about selling on Amazon, and it's kind of going to basically be all the information that you need. And I'll be introducing some partners as well that I use, and we've managed to get some exclusive discounts as well for Hive members to use their services. So you'll be able to get a significant discount if you do want to get back into the EU through using our partner services. So yeah, it should be really good. But we'll be covering, imports, exports, obviously selling on Amazon through EFN and PAN EU as well. And also one of the modules I'm really excited to teach people about is the opportunities since Brexit. So like the partnerships. So one thing we've done recently is we've partnered with a company in the Netherlands. Now they want to sell in the UK, but they don't want the hassle of setting VAT registrations up, creating fulfillment and all that stuff. So what we've said is, well, obviously we've already got that. We already sell in the UK. We've got our own warehouse. We've got a team of people. We can distribute products. So they actually approached me and they said, would you be interested in distributing our products on Amazon in the UK and through your own website? And we've in the process of signing an exclusivity agreement where they're going to send us the product from Europe and we're going to buy it at wholesale price and sell it to UK consumers at the full retail price and make a profit in between. So that's one of the things I'm really excited to teach people is how to make these kind of, partnership agreements and dealing direct with brands. There's going to be no brand registry issues. There's going to be no IP claims because you're working directly with the brand on a consistent supply basis. So that's something I'm really excited about.
Nice. A few more questions.
A few questions too. So I have PAN EU, but has anyone got experience importing to Germany? So yes, you are PAN EU as well, aren't you, Johnny? And obviously I'm PAN EU.
No, we're currently so Germany, Poland, and Czech Republic, which is the one before that. It's a level below.
Yeah. So there's
BSI.
You have to have 3 VAT registrations and minimum of 3, but there's up to 7 you can have to be PAN EU. So obviously, how it works, without getting into too much technical detail, is to store goods in a country, you have to have a VAT registration essentially. So if you want to store stuff in Germany, you have to be VAT registered in Germany. And obviously, if you want to store stuff in France, you have to have VAT registration in France. So having up to 7 VAT registrations means that Amazon can move all your stuff around to local marketplaces and offer Prime next day on all your stock. The problem here is if you only have VAT registrations in Germany, they can't offer Prime to customers in Spain because they physically cannot get that product from a warehouse in East Germany to Spain in under 24 hours. It's just not possible. So you lose out on some of the Prime eligibility of your products if you don't have all the PAN registrations. Of course, you can still get the sales, but you're not as competitive because you're not doing the next day thing.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, for us, we wanted to start with I can't remember what it's called, like Central Europe. Can't remember the program's called, but yeah, the Central Europe. I'm just making up Germany, Czech Republic, and Poland, and then we will, as our systems get better and more stock, we'll move to PAN EU and take advantage of that as well. But if you register all these, if you start too quickly, then there's a lot of paperwork, and that's where sort of Matt's partners he's built up are going to be useful for all that. One thing is, if you do start an entity in Germany, the paperwork and the VAT paperwork is a pain. You can't just use something like Xero or QuickBooks. You have to use the German sort of monopoly accountancy, which is I can't remember what it's called, DAV. So Germany are quite monopolistic about what they use. They want everything to be sort of controlled by the government. So they have their own the government has their own accountancy software called DAV. Yeah, that's the thing with sort of VAT registration and stuff like that. And sometimes it's best to go through Matt's route and doing it for a UK LTD, and because there is a lot of paperwork involved in having a bunch of different entities and actually having a business in the EU. This adds a lot of complications. And I know a lot of people have wanted to start in Germany doing it my way, and they're like, nope, no way. So the way Matt's going to teach is going to be a lot more hands off, a lot easier, and I think more profitable, actually.
I agree. Dan's just jumped in. He says that there's only 2 now, so it's changed. So they only have to have a minimum of 2 VAT registrations for the eligibility, which is good, because it used to have to be. It was originally 5 when I signed up, and then it went to 3, and now it's down to 2. So that's obviously Amazon trying to encourage people back in, because not that many people are jumping back in on the EU opportunity. Ben said, sorry for another question. Do we still need to register in each country for VAT if all our products are exempt as we manufacture them? It's the VAT that stops us, to be honest. 1 VAT return is enough. So you only need to have a VAT registration where you store goods. So you could theoretically have 1 VAT registration in 1 country and distribute to the whole of Europe. Of course, you won't get the prime eligibility, but you can still send, all your products to all customers in the entirety of Europe through 1 VAT registration. So it's still entirely possible to set it up that way. So there's different ways to set it up, and I'll be teaching you guys, all the different opportunities that are available through the Hive in the next training module.
Yeah. So some people will have Czech Republic, because I believe the fulfillment fees are slightly cheaper, and you can leverage like reverse charges, and if you want to get your prep costs done, some people go through like Czech Republic rather than Germany, because labor cost is a lot lower than that.
Yeah.
So there's Europe's massive. There's just so much to it, and like so much opportunity that's untapped, because it's really, really, it's complicated, and for me, I need to be as well, like, explain to me like I'm 5 years old, sort of thing on this, because it's just a lot of complication, a lot of paperwork, and different ways of optimizing, and yeah.
Because I know I'm not sure who this is, but it says 5 months ago my shipment got rejected. Again, this probably comes down to a simple paperwork issue. Again, I've trialed and errored it. We've had rejected shipments. It's about knowing where to ship your goods through and what to put on the paperwork, and they'll all go through completely smoothly. If you put the wrong commodity codes on, or you haven't got physical representation, things like that, the shipment will just get rejected. So once you know the information, then it's easy to do. It's just a case of assembling all the knowledge to be able to do it right and not have all these hassles, which is hopefully what the Hive is going to offer you guys, is the information packaged in a nice way that will stop a lot of these issues and cause a lot of pain for people having rejected shipments and the like. This one I think is for you, Johnny.
Yeah.
You do a lot of food products. Are you translating your food products into German? 5 months ago, I received a shipment rejected by customs. I'm guessing for this reason.
Never had it rejected from customs, but Amazon have definitely made items stranded because they haven't got the right translation. The problem with this, and why it's a bit of a pain with groceries, is if another seller on that listing doesn't have the correct labeling, translated label, then they will take down the entire listing rather than just take down your products. So Amazon are really fierce on this. So it's like everyone has to behave on the listing, not just one person. So it's a little bit ridiculous how they do that and how they take down the entire listing if there's not the correct labeling. They just assume every product's like that. But it's one of those things where you almost want to create your own listing and brand registry over there and create your own food listings, because you will get punished if another seller doesn't have the right labeling. Never had anything rejected by customs though. As long as you have the right, usually it's a case of having the right commodity code, and then there's also another code called the mooring code as well. So there's the commodity code and then the mooring code. So when you're doing making sure your commercial invoice is correct is essential. I've had brands speak to me and say, like, why is this rejected? I'm like, yeah, your commercial invoice is completely wrong. You haven't got like a mirroring code or anything like that. So if it's getting rejected, then yeah, check your commercial invoice, make sure the commodity codes are correct and using the right one.
Yeah,
Take a bit of time.
very common to be rejected on that. And I think the problem is people don't actually know what a commercial, again, knowledge, people don't know what a commercial invoice is. They just kind of think it's an invoice, but it's not. It's got to have a very specific set of information on the commercial invoice. And if any one piece of information is missing, then it gets rejected. I do think as well, the European Union are being particularly harsh on the UK as almost like a little bit of a punishment to say this is why you should never have left Europe. So I think they are being particularly strict on a lot of shipments than they would potentially be from other areas, just as a big FU to say this is why you should never have left in the first place because they didn't want us to go.
Yeah.
Stuff like I'm not sure who. I think this is from the Yvonne. I get stuck with a per market notification. I don't understand what this is and how to set it up. Will you be covering this? I'm not sure what the notification is. If you can reach out to me, I can certainly look at that. But yeah, I'll be covering in the Hive in the next block of training all the setup and different things. So we've got a good question here. So hi guys, what's the difference between PAN EU and EFN? And the difference is actually massive. So essentially, EFN or European Fulfillment Network is where you have goods stored in the UK, and then you can have them, and then you can have the offers put onto, say, the French marketplace, the Italian marketplace, and Amazon will ship them from the UK to the EU. Now, this sounds fantastic, and it is pretty good, to be fair, but there's a lot of caveats. So the main caveat is that the maximum shipment cost is £135 or 150 euros. So it can't be over that. So then that's the total shipment value. So it can't be over that. And also the fees are very expensive compared to domestic rates. They're about double, if not more, particularly on lower value goods. So for example, if you're paying, say, £3 fulfillment for an item now, you're probably going to be looking about €7 for the equivalent item to have that shipped to the EU. So great kind of program, but in reality, with these kind of little caveats, it can be an issue. So what a lot of sellers do is to go for what's called the PAN EU approach, which is essentially having your goods shipped directly into Europe and then sent from a center in Europe, which means you get the local fulfillment rates. So if you send your goods to Germany, then they will be shipped from a warehouse in Germany to the German consumer, and you'll pay the equivalent rate. So like if it's £3 here, it will be like €350, whatever the equivalent rate is, which is the rates are pretty much the same in most European countries to what you would pay in the UK. Yeah, so someone's just basically elaborated on what I've said there. Pauline has got a question. Says, if you're only VAT registered in Germany and have EFN set up, then would you only pay for local Amazon fees, not EFN, if your product sells in Germany? No, you'd only pay the local rate if your product is stored in Germany. So if you can have EFN and PAN EU together, just to make that clear. So you can have stuff in Germany and stuff in the UK. So, but you only pay the local rate if it's from an order of stock in Germany. So you can have both offers at the same time, and Amazon will always prioritize the local fulfillment, but you have to have the stock physically in Germany in order to benefit from the local fulfillment rate. So, if you've got a VAT registration but the stock isn't there, you'll still pay the EFN rate, not the local rate.
Yep, exactly.
So this is, I'm not sure who this was, sorry. It says the shipment was rejected since customs wants me to translate the products in German. They also want me to have a local contact in Germany and paste the information on the label. Yeah. So this is what I was going back to saying, what's called physical representation. So I know you probably have this with your company. By having a company inside the EU, you have to have somebody physically inside the EU. Now you can get companies on your behalf to do this. You don't have to do this yourself, but you do have to appoint somebody to have what's called physical representation and be physically inside the European Union.
So also called a notified party, I believe, on the commercial invoice.
Yeah.
So on a commercial invoice, you have like sold to, shipped to, and then like the notified party, which is like your representation in Germany that they will contact for like custom questions and stuff like that. Yeah. It's interesting how they've looked at your products and be like, that's not German. So that's the first I've seen about them actually rejecting for that reason. That's just bad luck, I imagine.
It probably stems from the paperwork issue though. You probably had a paperwork issue which initially flagged the shipment, and then that's obviously been investigated because it's been investigated. The aim of the game here is very much to kind of make sure your paperwork's in order so your shipment doesn't even get checked. It just goes straight through and flies through. You'll still get spot checks, but if your paperwork's all in order, it stops that kind of further investigation. If something looks wrong, then they're going to pull the shipment apart and try and find everything that's wrong with it. And that's probably why your stuff, Johnny, has flown through and this person's hasn't, because they've got a paperwork issue, which has then led to a investigation and found that the labeling's also incorrect. That's partly why they've rejected it as well. So
yeah, just wrap your pallets in commercial invoices. Just put everywhere.
3 copies as well. That's another thing people don't forget. You've got to send 3 copies. People only put 1 in. So there's lots of little things, I think, over the year, over the few years I've been doing this, we've learned just to make everything as smooth as possible and make everything as easy as possible. That helps everything get through.
Yeah.
Cool. I don't think we've got any more questions.
Is this the same question, or?
I think it's the same question. Same question as the one above, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I feel like a lot of these things require more detail, more thought. We can give sort of general answers and helps here, but in the Hive, obviously, we can give the detailed questions. And Matt, you're obviously going to run through this and break all this down, so it all makes sense. But you don't want to give too much advice, official advice here. We can sort of lead in the right way, but to actually get the detailed advice, we have that think through in a proper talk.
Yeah. That's what we have the Hive for, essentially. Yeah. Is the process for selling our unique bundle across EFN the same as normal OA, other than creating the listing for these? So it's similar, but not quite the same. So the listing process is slightly different because you obviously have to have a listing on each individual marketplace. So you'd have to make sure you've got a listing on each individual marketplace. But generally speaking, it's not too difficult to set up EFN. Obviously, you've got to make sure that your costs work and your profitability is right, because the fulfillment fees are going to be considerably higher as well. But it's not too difficult to set up once you've got the listings done and you've linked the ASINs that way through the different marketplaces.
Exactly. I think the other thing with EFN is if it contains some sort of food item, I don't think EFN at the moment accepts food products. It's they're quite tight on EFN, aren't they? They don't allow all the different sort of products, which is a pain, because obviously back in the heyday, everything was allowed back in
back in the European days. Exactly, everything was definitely allowed. So
the good old days of low interest rates and being able to
and European access. Someone's commented here, so put 4 on the outside of the box and 1 in the box, you'll have less problems. So lots of things like that, a lot of tips and tricks that you can add on. Someone said, where can I hire you for consultation? If you want to learn about Europe, join the Hive. It's the best place. And obviously, it's a membership group. Someone said, when are we going to be teaching this? This is going to start on the 20th of June, is going to be the first European session. So we've got 1 more session about unique bundles, which is our previous training topic. And then we're going to be moving on to the European side on the 20th of June. So if you're interested, make sure you get yourselves in there before then. I'll pop a link on there in the comments as well.
Yeah.
Well, we need separate GS1 barcodes for EU listings, as we would translate packaging, etc. I guess Amazon will reject a new listing with an existing barcode.
I don't think so.
I don't think you need new EANs. If you look at most products, if you see most products have an EAN is by definition, sorry, just one barcode. An EAN, a European article number, is for the entirety of Europe. So you only need one EAN to have the listing in the entirety of Europe. Most people, have translations of multiple languages. You look at most products, the outside of the boxes has like 5 different languages on, and the instruction manual in 5 different languages, in order that they only have to produce one product and be able to send that to the entirety of the EU. So yeah, I mean, you want to consider your packaging to make sure it's potentially got all the language options on there, then you wouldn't have any issues. But a barcode, you'd only need one barcode and one ASIN for a product.
Yeah. So someone clarified that GS1 is worldwide.
It's worldwide, yeah.
And there's a question here: how much is shipping to Europe? So for me, it's we negotiated with K&M, Kuehne and Nagel. It's like 160 for a pallet plus customs, and you have to pay customs on the other side. So it's about 200 for a pallet. It's a lot. So say like we can usually fit about 500 to 600 grocery items on a pallet. So what that means is it's going to look at about 40p of about 40p of delivery costs, and then obviously a lot of admin, and then there's sometimes duty if it's not UK country of origin. So yeah, you know, all in, you're probably going to look at about £1. We do about £1 per product, but for more expensive stuff, it's going to be.
I actually, technically, my European shipping is free. I don't actually pay for European shipping, so I only have to get it to the UK. So through the ATS program, my shipping is completely free to Europe, but I do have to pay a €60 per shipment clearance fee, plus obviously any applicable duties and or VAT that you have to pay.
Yeah. Also, with customs, it's like a scaling thing. If you have more commodity codes, then you'll pay more money. If you only have maybe 3 commodity codes, it might be included in the actual original thing. But usually, it's more money per commodity code because there's more admin work for them.
Yeah.
So again, like you probably optimally want to send like just chocolates at the same. So if it's Q4, don't send chocolates now. Chocolates don't work in Germany right now. We're just still sitting on some of our chocolate listings. But yeah, you just want to send you want to kind of group it and consolidate the same sort of products at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone's asked, so what can I expect from the membership? So I'm assuming them in the Hive. So what can you expect from the Hive? So we'll have training. The next training block is going to be about how to sell in Europe. So there's going to be at least one training session a week, either live or pre-recorded training. So we do one live, which will either be training and Q&A, or just a Q&A about the previously recorded training. The reason some of it's recorded is just it's better delivery. It's not necessarily that we don't want to do it live, but it's easier for me to do a step-by-step guide when it's pre-recorded than it is to do it live and talk through it, and then you have to go and watch it back rather than just pausing the video. So that's why we do some things live and some things pre-recorded. Of course, you get access to the private group as well, where you'll be able to ask questions and get priority access to ourselves and other high-level sellers. And it's a great community as well, of a great knowledge bank, not just about Europe, but about all different aspects of selling on Amazon, where you can ask questions, and it's really a great community. Wouldn't you agree, Johnny? It's a good community of people with some really good knowledge in there.
Yeah. So eventually you will get access to the previous courses. There's also I run sourcing workshops, bi-weekly usually. Again, access to us. You'll get discounts to different services, softwares. We have our own software that we're developing, which again you get highly discounted rates for, which is again one of a kind sort of replen software, which again nothing like it. So there's a whole bunch of things, and it's again, it's not like we're asking for £3,000 up front. It's £99 per month, which is like absolutely nothing to have, access to people who do multiple seven figures a month and live financially freely. So it's it's still a new service of less than a year. We've been running this for 6 months now or something, or 7 months.
6 months now, yeah.
So currently the prices is more of an introductory price as we started, but we'll be going up. But at the moment, it's you can lock yourself.
The price will be increasing shortly. We'll begin people, not just saying that to get people on. We are generally putting the price up soon. So
but like it's the best affordable. I again recommend to me any sort of service that can match it, and I will join it because there's nothing like it. That's just not me pitching, but I'm always looking for coaching, always looking for training. I'm always looking for education. I will pay money for it, but there's nothing better value than this. There really isn't. Yeah.
Fantastic. For the ATS program, you have to be VAT registered in at least 2 countries. The honest answer is I will get back to you and confirm. I don't think so. Obviously, you would have to have at least Germany or France to ship to Germany or France, but I don't think you need to. I will clarify that with them, with Avask and ATS. But I think as long as you've got Germany or France, I think you'll be okay.
Is it ATS still invite only?
No, I think you can apply for it. I don't think it's invite only. You have to inquire. It's not something you can just instantly access. You have to be enrolled for it, but I don't think it's on an invite basis anymore. It was on invite about 2 years ago, but it's not anymore.
Okay, cool.
So Scott said he's really looking forward to training. I'm really looking forward to delivering it as well. So that's good. Someone said, can you explain ATS? So I don't want to get into, Scott again, don't want to get into too much detail on this, but essentially how it works is you ship your products to a warehouse in the United Kingdom. Amazon then collates all these parcels into one trailer, and then they send them to either Germany or France, and then they receive them in the fulfillment centers in Germany or France, wherever it's gone to. And then your goods are available for sale in Germany and across the European Union. If you have more VAT registrations than just Germany, they will then separate the stock and move it around the EU to get what they think is the best sales and prime eligibility in all countries. Or if wherever you have VAT registrations is where they will store the stock. So yeah, it's a really good little program. There's some pitfalls. It's not very quick. It does take a while. That's the main pitfall, because obviously Amazon have to collate all the parcels. They have to fill a trailer. They won't send an empty trailer. Whereas obviously UPS, if you send one box to that country, then it will get there in a couple of days. Amazon will wait until they've got all the parcels together, and they'll clear them all together. So there can be a delay. And if one person's paperwork isn't right, it can delay the whole trailer. But it is a very inexpensive way to get back into Europe compared to the direct shipping approach, which obviously you yourself do, Johnny.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'd say mine's if you're doing big volumes, there are benefits of the way I do it, because economies of scales and cheaper custom rates, and that sort of £30 to £50 sort of custom rate gets squashed when because it's a one-time sort of fee. Man, it's 8 o'clock. Oh, 8 o'clock in the morning now. That's that's the hour done. Obviously, if you're in the UK, I imagine it's 2 p.m. Usual time. But what I can say is I'm looking forward to learning from your course. I haven't actually seen it yet, but I'm looking forward to learning your way of doing it. Something I might implement for my UK business as well, on top of doing it for my German entity. But it's going to be good to sort of learn it in a more fun way than learning it through HMRC and going through lots and lots of paperwork.
Definitely.
Thanks everyone for listening. For me, it's an early start to me, so I'm kind of getting going now. Yeah, if I'm gonna do it again, I'm gonna do it from my bed. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Cool.
Well, guys, we'll see you all soon. I think Natalie's back next week, and I think she's got another guest, so we'll see you soon.
Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.